if I get a little teary-eyed, it's not about the trauma. It's just about how generous Bob's heart was and the lesson that he taught me, which in turn is what I want you to hear today as well. So what happened was back in 2011, one day I was under the bed. I know what you know that means. I was just under the bed. The phone rang and I didn't even look to check what it was. I was like, just let it go to voicemail. I am too miserable. I am under the bed. And a little bit later, I checked it. And of course, it had been Bob and he had called me. And so I listened to the voicemail and he's like, hey, Di, are you under the bed? Are you hanging out with the dust bunnies? You need to come out from under the bed. You need to come out from the dust bunnies. Come on, give me a call. I'm waiting, Di. I'm waiting. So I thought about it for a minute and I thought, oh my gosh, I probably need to call him back, because what had happened was my longtime boyfriend, whom I was sure I was going to be marrying, he was with me for 7 years. He had called me the day before and he was totally excited and totally in love with somebody else. And he wanted to tell me that he had found the love of his life and that he knew it was the woman for him and that he was breaking up because he had found the love of his life. And so I was like, wow, that's really interesting. It's not me. So I was just absolutely devastated. I just couldn't even believe it. And so I was under the bed and I thought, you know what? These dust bunnies, they're good. They're good for carbo loading. I can be here. The view is fine under the bed. I think I'll be here for a while. It's absolutely good. But after I got that phone call from Bob, I was like, okay, if I don't return the call to Bob, he's going to send out like all these people. He's going to send Mark Victor Hansen, who is endlessly cheerful, to come get me, or he's going to send Mary Morrissey from over the hill, you know, in her stoic, gentle kindness, or he's going to put Gina on a plane and have her come down and pull me out from the bed with my armpits. If I don't do something, he's going to act. So I better call him back. So I called him back and he's like, hey, Di, are you out from under the bed? And I started crying again. And so he said, let me read this to you because it's actually better to read it to you from the book. So like I sort of mumbled, you know, I didn't say anything. I just sort of mumbled. And he said, you know, Di, it's okay to stop feeling like first he said, I heard from someone who heard from someone about what happened. How are you doing? And I started crying again, you know, and it really wasn't even so much about the trauma that I'd just gone through. It was about the fact that he was so concerned and he was there, right? So he says, you know, Di, it's okay to stop feeling like your heart has been broken by a man who didn't love you as much as you wanted him to. In fact, it's the healthiest thing in the world you can do. He's not responsible for breaking your heart. Only you are responsible for letting that happen. He probably loved you, but he wound up loving someone else, and that's the place he chooses to be. For whatever reason in his mind, it's what's best for him. I'm still silent. He says, it's time to bundle him up in a big ball of gold light and just like the dandelion that you used to blow the seeds out over your yard when you were a kid. He said, you want to see all those white seeds just flutter out. You want to wish him the best, and you want to just send him on his way. Let him go on his way. And he said, how he chooses to feel about another person has nothing to do with how you should feel about yourself. He chose in that direction. He's on a different path now. You're on a different path now too. You might feel that he coerced it, that his decision pushed you on to separate paths, but this is your new path now. One day, you're going to look back and be so happy that you're on this path, and you're going to understand why. And then he said, remember who you really are, Di. You're not a human being with the dust bunnies down there. You're a unique presence that is only one you. Even when you have days when you don't feel that you have support from this guy or your fellow humans or your mom or anybody in your life, understand that you're always supported and guided by something much bigger, because you are much bigger. And God is always looking out for the best for Diane, always. And I said, thanks, Bob. And he said, if you have trouble believing that you're bigger, I'll believe for you, okay? Because I know what's true about you. And I said, thanks, Bob. And he said, okay, Call me tomorrow. We've got work to do. And he hung up the phone and he was off. So, what an amazing lesson, right? To really get yourself past that point of feeling the depression and the resentment and the hurt and the morose and chewing on the dust bunnies and spending your time in that space when actually your path is moving in a direction and it's on purpose. And there's a reason why this path is happening. I remember I was engaged to a really terrible man years and years and years ago. Terrible guy. But Tommy's laughing. He was terrible. And, everyone was like, how in the world could you have been engaged to him? He was such a terrible man. But you know what? If it hadn't been for him, I wouldn't have come to California initially. I wouldn't have discovered Laguna Beach because he brought me to Laguna Beach. I wouldn't have jumped into his real estate business to try to salvage his real estate business, which then led to a big giant contract with people who knew me in the business and knew that I had pulled him up out of that. I mean, there were so many great things that happened as a result of that terrible engagement with that terrible man. So you always have to look at the bright side. You always have to look at that path and say, okay, I'm not supposed to be on that path. I chose not to be on that path with that guy. And there's something in my world that chose for me to not be with this guy that I had been with for 7 years. So you have to just move forward with your purpose, move forward with your talents and your spirit, and just keep moving. And it'll all unfold. It will all show itself later. And it always does. So I thought that was just such an amazing lesson. And the really important thing is to understand that you aren't just a little human. You are this giant, empowered source of energy, giant empowered source of energy. And if you have trouble believing in you, I will believe in you. I will believe in you. And it always helps to have one person in your court that you know is going to pull you out from under that bed. So if you're ever under the bed, if I ever hear that you're under the bed, I'm going to send those people, or I'm going to find a way to get you out from under the bed, because I do believe in you and I know that you're going to make this thing happen.